Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, clothes do more than make the man or the woman. Sometimes they make the entire picture. And if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very, very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm assuming you do. You're listening to us right now. You can subscribe to the podcast. We'd love it if you did. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, you can find every single one of our episodes archived over at our YouTube channel. Also, we'd love it if you'd follow us on social media. You can do that on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at either at In The Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I say this a lot, but it is most importantly, please visit us over at In The Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the worlds of film, television, reviews, news, lists, anything else in between that we can think of, because we quite frankly love talking about the moving image, and we love it when you come and read about it and listen about it. So please come on by. We got an interesting one on this one. We're talking about the upcoming CAFTCAD Awards. What are the CAFTCAD Awards, you say? Well, that's why I'm here, because I'm going to tell you. They are basically costume awards. They are the Canadian. Here it is. It is the Canadian Alliance of Film and Television Costume Arts and Design Awards. And it's online this year, and it is open to everybody for absolutely free. And basically, it awards the art of costume design. It awards it awards those things that we tend to forget about, because costuming in film and television is just so damn important that it does need its own award show, and it's important to sort of give love to these hard-working men and women and these artisans who really go above and beyond and make some amazing stuff, especially the stuff that gets shot in and around Toronto as well. And if you want to know more about the CAFTCAD Awards, how to stream and how to watch them, you can watch them on YouTube. You can watch them on Facebook this coming Saturday, May 1st at 8 p.m., and it's going to be available worldwide. And if you need any more information, go to the CAFTCADawards.com, and just to spell that out, that is CAFTCAD Awards.com. But we're talking with the host. It's interesting. We actually got to talk with actor Stephen McCarthy, who you may know from a variety of shoots, from around Canada, and just he is the quintessential working actor, as we like to call it, and he's a fun guy, but he's the host of the show. He's one of the hosts of the show, along with Amanda Brugel, who you may know from shows like Handmaid's Tale and a few other things. But we talked with him about sort of the importance of costume for an actor, and just how it helps him get into character, and just sort of the real necessity of the art of costume design, which is such a big thing, especially when you're doing some of these big budget shoots, be it from a sci-fi thing to a period piece. Costuming is just so darn important, and it doesn't necessarily get the love it deserves either. So, I do recommend, if you have any interest in costuming, go check this out and enjoy our talk with Stephen, because it's a fun one. Now, I mean, obviously, first off, you're hosting the CAFTCAD Awards, and I'm always kind of fascinated with costume, and I mean, this might be a loaded question, but bear with me, because as a working actor, obviously you'll go for auditions, you'll read, and then you'll get parts, and there'll be read-throughs, and you'll talk to directors, and that whole 9 yards. But I always kind of felt like, especially if you're working on something, and you're still trying to find the character or the part, like the costume fitting almost would be like sort of your last sort of moment to sort of get it. Does that make any kind of sense?
Totally. The only correction I'd make is that It's almost always your first moment to get it.
Really? Oh, okay.
Counter to what you might believe about, I really wish that directors. I just worked on a project where a director was much more forthcoming and much more forthright, and they're not taking advantage of actors' time. So a lot of times you might not meet the person, the director, or the people running the thing until you're on set, just about to shoot.
Oh,
You
geez.
might be walking to set and be like, "Oh, this is the director." Like, that's more rare on feature films or things that are, where maybe the director's more personally involved. But I would say 9 out of 10 times the first creative collaborative meeting that you have is with the costume designer. Yeah.
That's wild because I mean, from people on the outside, it's like costuming. I mean, unless it's like an obvious period piece or like some sort of weird sci-fi thing, costuming almost gets forgotten about.
Yeah, that's what's so great about the CAFTCADs is that I think it helps draw back this curtain on this invisible yet ultra powerful aspect of what happens when you see, like, visuals travel a lot faster than words,
Yeah.
and we are making decisions about people every day when we see what they're wearing. We make decisions about what type of day we want to have when we decide to either put on or not put on pants for a Zoom meeting. You know what I mean? Like, but costume designers are doing that all the time. They're making personal life decisions about every aspect of what a character might feel like, how their personality is coming across on a given day, in the same degree that we would think about our outfit for an important meeting or for a job interview or something, or an audition, say. They do that for every single aspect of the character, and they can chart it, like you say. Sometimes it's a period piece, so there's aspects of research that have to be done, but sometimes with more of a modern piece, it can be as simple as, uh, you know, I know you're speaking to Ann Dixon. She has to think about, what does Jeff Comey feel like today with his family? What
Yeah.
is this? What does this meeting with Trump mean to him? He's got a very severe palate, but she's thinking about all of those things, I guarantee, at every stage, and it's really just, a huge invisible part of filmmaking that I think most people, they take in and make judgments about the characters from those visuals without even being aware that they're doing it. But the intention of the costume designers, they have to be aware of it. Their intention as storytellers has to come through, and the best ones always do.
Now, I mean, I love that you say just that's your first sort of moment where you actually get to be collaborative because I mean, I can imagine there's going to be jobs where you walk in and you go, all right, here's your outfit, wear it, versus what do you want to wear or what should you wear? Like, I mean, how often do you get the back and forth, or is it just a question of here's your outfit, go put it on?
I'll tell you one of my favorite stories. I got, I had been going through a bit of a rough patch, and I got a part on The Expanse that I didn't know anything about. I had auditioned for one part, I got cast in another, and so the time that you actually got the part is when the costume designer or costume designer assistant calls you and asks for your measurements. That's when you really know that someone is investing some money in making your clothes, making you look.
Inside baseball, I love it.
Yeah, so you better be exactly until you get your jersey, you're not really on the team. But baby brain, what was your question? Oh yeah, so I walked into my fitting for The Expanse, and it was season 4, and I had no concept of how big or small or significant or insignificant my part might be. But Joanne Hansen, who is one of Canada's like leading designers in all part. I think she's Schitt's Creek and The Expanse and like tons of other stuff.
Oh
So
wow.
this gives you an idea of like the range. But my costume, I was playing a refugee, a Belter refugee. There's this, these people who live in space in The Expanse, and they have no planet of their own and no place to live, and they're basically refugees. So the costumes are going to be quite simple because it's going to be workaday clothes. It's going to be mechanics. It's going to be people who work in machines and in ships and things like that. But when she realized that I wasn't totally aware of my place in the story, she took me out into the hallway where she had her entire season 1 through 4 lookbooks of what the Martians are like, what the Earthers are like, what the Belters are like, how they intersect. And it was a whole hallway of visuals. And she told me the story of The Expanse, because I'd been cast the week before and I hadn't had a chance to watch the entire show. I'd only seen a few episodes. So she actually spoke to me so with such warmth and love, and such a collaborator, even though my costume in essence was actually just like a jumpsuit, like, a kind of mechanic's jumpsuit. It was hardly a big deal for her, but she also knew how big an important part that I ended up having. So that was my first inclination, instinct to understand that. But I'll never forget how she just took me through it all, and that's not that's I wouldn't say it's common, but with really good designers, they can make time for the artists that they're collaborating with. And it's not as simple sometimes as sometimes it's like this or this, but I've never met a designer who there wasn't a kind of feedback loop with how do you feel in that? Does this jibe with your instinct? And sometimes it can give you new information, and sometimes it can confirm things that you already have like impressions of. Um, but also you can kind of go on a ride with people. I've had design meetings. Michael Ground, who I worked with on Ken Finkelman's show a long time ago, we just went shopping. We just went shopping together, and he was like, do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? Do you like that? I like this. Try this. And we just spent the entire day going shopping, and that wasn't too far off. Megan Oppenheimer for Picture Day, we just went to Kensington Market and asked me what I felt sexy in and what I felt cool in, because I was going to play the romantic lead of this movie with Tatiana Maslany. And yeah, I have a lot of good stories about great collaborations with costume designers.
Are there any not so great stories? Are there moments where you just like where you've been presented something and it's like I really don't want to wear this, or were there moments where you were able to say I really don't want to wear this?
I have one. Josie, who is the president of one of the co-chairman of CAFTCADs, I met her on a film called The Steps, and we were jibing right away. But the brief that she had was for this guy is it was a family comedy about an adult mom and dad, or like a sort of like past middle-aged mom and dad who get married, and their adult children, they bring them together, and it's like a bad Brady Bunch. Everyone's old and doesn't like the other family and doesn't have anything in common with them. And I was playing this rock star guy who has come home after his band has fallen apart, and he's basically almost committed suicide, and had this terrible thing. It's a comedy, but I was playing this sort of morose child who's basically been crashing on the couch of new dad and the mom. And Josie had been given a brief to kind of like go rock star with this guy. And I had been in a rock band in real life for 10 years. And I was just like, we can't sort of like advertise him being this. We don't want to sell the idea of him being a rock star. They talk about it all the time in the movie. So my goal was to kind of really just show his sad, morose kind of Kurt Cobain quality with crappy sweaters and stuff that he felt like he wanted to hide out in. And I wanted to go against maybe the brief that she'd been given, which is to kind of chains and kind of really make it like, okay, this guy's, that kind of the cartoonish idea of what a rock star would look like. I was just like, they talk about it all the time. He's a rock star. Just let's let that be taken for granted. And Josie totally, we went along together. And so it wasn't a situation where she was fighting for something and I was fighting for it. It was like we both had a little path, and I was fighting for more of the depressive side, and she was fighting for what the director had told her to do. And somehow we found a way through it together, and it was great. It ended up actually working out really well. And a lot of people then gave me compliments on the role because they were like, oh, you didn't play him the way I thought you would play him. And I was like, what does a rock star act like? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, there are definitely some stories where you have to just shut up and take what's given and do your job. Those are not as interesting stories, so I won't tell them.
No, but I mean, I love that the whole idea of the CAFTCADs really does sort of bring back the ideal that we all tend to forget, that to make anything, it takes a village. And I mean, and that's such an important thing to highlight. And I'm kind of curious, from your perspective, how important is it to sort of bring sort of an actor perspective to just being, I mean, I know you guys have done the pre-tapes and whatnot for it all, but just to sort of be there in the moment and sort of being able to sort of have an appreciation for the work that the costumers really put in, on set on such a daily basis.
When when I've been lucky enough to be on big shows and I'm there a regular part, sometimes when you go into your design meetings with somebody, I'm the kind of person who I found out just a half an hour before I was doing one project called Barkskins that I was meeting Anna Teresas, who had been the designer for Roma. So I'm the kind of guy who gets like starstruck by like, I'm like, oh my God, this person worked with on Roma. Like I get starstruck by that kind of thing. So maybe I'm a bit of an appropriate nerd for this job. But when you're weaving through some of those places and you see all these people and you're like, what are they doing? Like, how many people, sometimes you watch the costume department and there's like 30, 50 people who are working sometimes in these departments, especially if it's a period piece, and there's cutters and there's sewers and there's textile people. Working on the CAFTCADs really gave me a better appreciation of exactly what and how many roles there are in the costume department. We all understand the costume designer is going to be the head of that, or the production designer is going to be the head of that kind of world. But the costume designer is basically, they're the general of the army. There's an entire sort of system of people who are picking the fabrics, dyeing the fabrics, treating them so that they're ready and look appropriate to the period, choosing the colors and dyeing the colors or creating the colors with new dyes so that they look right and tell the story in the right kind of way for the film. There's the people who are the illustrators, who are doing sometimes the design sketches with which that are presented to the teams in order to get okays to go forward with certain things. Like, yeah, when you're talking about a show that Joanna works on, like Murdoch Mysteries now, like that's an easy, that we understand the costume design in that because it's not from our period, but every single show has those meetings where they're pitching the idea, they're pitching the colors, they're pitching the design, they're pitching the silhouette, they're pitching the shape, they're collaborating with the director. And I've been lucky enough to be a director of a couple of films and also some theater, and that is the best part of the filmmaking business, is those kind of conversations where you're like, yeah, I don't know, I was thinking more that the person would kind of be in this type of look when they have that huge confrontation scene with their wife, and the other person convinces you otherwise. Even when you're maybe ostensibly the leader of the project, to surround yourself with people like Linda Muir, I worked with on Chapelwaite, who is this show with Adrian Brody that I just did out in Halifax. This was I'm playing the kind of chief antagonist, and it's an 18th century kind of Maine Stephen King story about Adrian Brody plays a ship's captain whose wife is dies at sea with him, and he brings his children back to live in this town where he has inherited a house from his cousin, me. And so when he gets there, he realizes that this family, who he's never met, who is now all deceased, apparently, Stephen King, no spoilers, has such a terrible reputation. They're the kind of land owning class in this town, and they've had the town under their thumb for generations. And we went in, Linda Muir and Lorna Marie Duggan, who was the other costume designer, who was actually in Ireland and for COVID reasons couldn't come. But we had meeting after meeting after meeting where they would change the silhouette of the coat, add different things, look at period books, have conversations with each other, and also ask my own opinion about the kind of fit and the shape of this look. Because when you first see this guy in the dark and he emerges from the dark, you're just seeing his shadow. And you want to kind of know all you need to know about him just from the way his elegant but austere and slightly threatening clothing kind of fits him. So I just like these kind of collaborations are just, people don't know that they happen. That's why the CAFTCADs is so important, to kind of give a little bit of the spotlight over for one night to these people. And I think that's what's so great about this year, with it being online and being more accessible to average people, or people who might be curious about costumes but don't necessarily live in Toronto or can't get to the Aga Khan Museum for the
Right.
or would never know about it. But I really feel like the fact that this production is there, it spotlights the artists who are working so hard behind the scenes. And it kind of gives a bit of it's a little bit of a lesson, very quick and very kind of wittily written by Cynthia, in what all the different departments do and what they're for. And yeah, I think it's going to be entertaining as well as a bit instructive for people who are just a bit, wondering what costume design really is all about.
Well, you know what? I think that's kind of why I really love sort of that aspect of the business, because on one end, you and I, who are in the business in varying degrees, can nitpick and examine and go into it and really sort of dissect and really sort of appreciate sort of the art of the collaboration that you go through in the moment. Whereas the general public will go, oh, well, that looks great, or that's nice. But
Hmm.
really, when it's done well, like it for us, it's meant to be noticed. For the general public, it's meant not to be noticed almost, in
You
a
know,
way.
I love that you said that, David, because I feel the same way about all art forms, and all art forms, especially in the storytelling mode of film or theater. If you notice it, it's not doing the job of storytelling.
Bingo.
Because if you notice the acting, if you're admiring the acting, you're outside of the acting. We all know the feeling when we see a character emerge and they just look right and it just affects you, like, I'm thinking, like, just Kate Winslet in Titanic or something like that, emerging and seeing him at the dance or something like that. Like, like these moments, or Pretty Woman or something like that. Like, we have these iconic moments, and we don't think about them as being like, ooh, look at what she's wearing. We just go, oh, she lived up to the moment and is now gonna take that next step in her journey as a character. We're in it with them as characters. And to me, um, it's not as like ooh ah as maybe production design or as special effects or some of those other things, but it is affecting us all the time. It's in the same way that when we get up in the day, we're deciding kind of what we want our personality to feel like that day. And by choosing our wardrobe, we're kind of deciding what our silhouette's going to be, how tight we want to be wrapped, how much we want to show off our bodies, how much we want to hide ourselves. All those things we do subliminally all the time based on what we're going to encounter that day. And because, film and costume design is part of art, it's just that plus, it's that elevated to the next degree to tell, hopefully, an incredible story.
Oh, I know. I mean, I even think of something recent like Nicole Kidman in that HBO show with The Undoing, and everyone talking about her coat, but
Mm,
just the way she looked really sort of elevated sort of the stature of the character and made the whole story arc that much more compelling and tragic, just because when we saw this person in this amazing coat, it was like, okay, this is somebody we're going to pay attention to. And that's really the art of costume design, to really sort of make us focus on someone without having to say a word. And I think the CAFTCADs, in a small way, will do I hope, give a little bit more of a window into that world. And thank you for taking part in this, and thank you for taking part in that. And thanks for the time
mhm.
today, man. This was fun.
Oh, it's so fun. I love talking about it, and I love that you're the type of person to kind of be excited and interested in how that collaboration works. Because I mean, I'll tell you this, I've been to a lot of industry events and I've never had more fun. There was something about the CAFCADs. I think it's still that idea of these people who love looking good and love fashion and love clothing and love style, but who have decided to work in service of story, getting for one night the chance to kind of express themselves. And I know we don't get to meet in person and have that happen this time, but I really do feel that Cynthia and Josie and their entire team, and Peter, the director, and Amanda Brugel and I, who I was lucky enough to co-host with, I feel like people are going to be excited and actually happy to see this, because it's doing something. It's doing something that most awards shows have so far not been able to do, and that's
And I mean, I love that you say that too, because I mean, it is celebrating the stylish, but it's the people who are taking the step back. Because then, I mean, historically, the stylish are the ones who want to step forward, not step back. And this is really what makes this whole process so interesting.
yeah, God. I mean, well, just another side note,
Yeah.
Linda Muir, who worked on Chapelwaite with me, she works on the Lighthouse. That's
Oh,
another moment. She won the CAFCAD last year for the Lighthouse, and I think I presented her award, or maybe I was just in the audience. But I remember just when I got cast in Chapelwaite in the Halifax thing, being like, "Oh my God, I get to work with the woman who worked on the Lighthouse," and I didn't get enough of a chance to talk with her about that thing, but speaking, because also the Robert Eggers is a costume designer by trade, like that's
That's
his
right.
first.
Yeah.
So you got to think it must be intense and amazing to work on someone who has that degree, and how, going from the witch to the lighthouse, how much texture and look and style and feel a part of his films. And to me, I mean, that's an excellent film. But yeah, I mean, I I just hope I get to work with all the people who are winning awards.
I hope you do too, man. All this really does bring sort of an extra level of appreciation to the collaborative art of storytelling, being no matter what it is. And just thanks again for the time, man. This was a lot of fun.
Great, Dave. Thank you. I look forward to seeing your piece. Thanks for spreading the word for us.
You got it, man.
All right, talk soon.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.